Yeah, I feel like the content always like flows pretty naturally whenever. Like I feel like we always just like start talking. It goes like 2 hours or whatever.
That's true, boys. We're boys and girls out there. We're here. We're live. Welcome to a brand new Poker Live podcast. You already saw the man we're joined by today. My name's Joe Ingram, aka Chicago Joe, aka Chainsaw Joe. This week we had Maurice Condani on the podcast, Phil Hellmuth, Matt Berkey, all great episodes on their own. Podcasts are now on iTunes every single day after it goes on. Search Poker Life, and also on SoundCloud. Shout out to Joe if you want to put it on SoundCloud. And tomorrow night, we're going to have a special Friday night. Bring your margaritas, bring your whiskey and cokes, bring your candlelights. Me and Jason Kuhn sitting down late night, having another podcast with each other. That's going to be tomorrow night, about 9 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern time, somewhere around there. And then Sunday is the big day of the Super High Roller Bowl. I'll be doing shows every day after that. Every day the High Roller Bowl goes on. And let's get into the podcast. Joining me today is a young man who still got it, boys and girls. He still got it, man. They said, you know what, Timex, he's an entrepreneur now, man. Everyone that turns into an entrepreneur that used to be a primary poker player, they always say that they still got it, they still do it. This guy can do it, man. Took down the high roller on home soil in Canada. He's fired up, working hard with PokerShares, working hard with potentially, and this might be one of the saddest things ever talked about on the Poker Live podcast. Might be selling the Lamborghini. I'm not sure if it's sold, what's happening with that. But we're joined by a man that looks just like my buddy Mike McDonald, and I still can't believe it when I stare at the two of them. We're joined by Mike McDonald, a.k.a. Timex, back in the house. What's up, Poppy? What's happening, man?
That might actually be the best intro I've ever had. Like, I think, if poker doesn't work out, entrepreneurship doesn't work out, and I ever get into, say, like boxing or MMA, and I need someone to be like my hype man as I step into the ring, like that is it right there. Like that was quite the intro. I'm impressed, Joe.
All you have to do is name the place, and I'm in. I don't care. You go to Rumble in the Jungle in Africa. I don't care. I'm in. I want to do that. I think I'd be good at that, man.
All right.
I don't know why. I believe it though. I think the people I have on the podcast, I like them, so it makes me easier to hype them up and say a nice intro about them. Now, if I had someone on the podcast like someone I didn't like, I don't want to mention their names. So I don't really like. I like a lot of people.
For someone who likes firing shots, you should be at least able to fire a few shots out here. Who's someone who you couldn't do the intro for? I would expect for the guy who's always stirring up the drama. That's not a lot of drama you're stirring up.
My name's not Joe Polk. I'm not Joe Polk. I'm not Doug's brother, man. Come on, that's my guy Doug. Come on, man. Hey, Doug's the one stirring up the drama, man. Come on.
All right, fair enough. You just want to watch the shots being fired. You don't want to. Your gun will stay holstered, right?
I'm a sniper. I'm sniping from the back. It's like we're in Iraq right now. I'm in the rooftop. I'm hiding behind the mirror, the wall mirror, and I'm firing some little subtle shots out there. You're like
the high school girl who will like talk behind you'll talk behind someone's back, but you won't say shit to her face.
I'll say shit to everyone's face. I'll say it to anyone's face, man. Whatever I say on the pod, I assume they'll see it, but I'm gonna say it to their face too. But I don't know, man. Mike, I'm old now, bro. What do I got? Come on, man. Life is good. What kind of negative things I got to say about people?
That's a good mentality to have. Yeah, it's definitely it's one of those things where I think we all have a bit more of an ego. We're more combative when we're like 18-year-olds playing online poker or whatnot. Than the poker community is getting older. There's less room for just random bickering or whatnot than there was 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, I just think we're getting old, bro. I think we're getting old. I think, I'm 31 now. You're getting to be a fucking old man. I can't believe it. It just seems like a day ago you were wearing braces, getting it all in with Jackson losing, man. So it's like
exactly,
you are, Mr. Entrepreneur, man.
Time flies.
So let's before we get into PokerShares, man, because we got to talk about these odds. You got some interesting numbers for some of the players on the website PokerShares, and we're going to talk all about this. I got a lot of bangs out there too.
Yeah, we weren't even trying to bang. We were just putting our money where our mouth is. There was no real bang. We weren't trying to fire any shots, but sometimes the shots just get fired whether you like it or not.
I mean, listen, you got Kevin Hart 1-1. You got him at 0.6. That's a bang. I don't care what I don't care what that's a bang. You have Kevin Hart, a known high stakes poker player in the poker world.
I mean,
I would say, I think that's right. 0.6.
I mean, you know what? I would say if in the next major, motion picture, we've got Christoph Vogelsang, we've got David Peters, we've got Nick Petrangelo starring in the next movie, I think they'll get less than 0.6 times as many laughs as Kevin Hart would. So, I don't really think that him being less than 0.6 in our profession is too big of a deal. Like, I think we'd be a lot less than 0.6 to his profession.
Well, whether I agree or disagree that those can be correlated somehow, I'm going to agree with you because I think it's going to make it easier here. So, but guys, we're going to talk about a few things today. I want to start with this Ty Roller Bowl win, Mike. So Canada, shout out to Party Poker, by the way. Shout out to John Duth. I think John Duthie's in the chat right now, man. What's up, John? He said old. He couldn't believe we're talking about old people, man. He said,
John, how's it going?
On us.
Yeah, though. I'm glad that John's in here watching. I guess this thing probably gets a larger like viewership than I realized. Like, I assume this is largely like a 2+2 like Twitch sort of following, but I mean, it must be reaching out a decent amount of guys that are even older than us are watching the podcast.
I mean,
go ahead.
Like Party Poker's out there doing a lot of things. They got a lot of representatives. I don't know. Party Poker seems like they think it's 2003 again right now, man. They're like doing things out here. They're trying to take get more players back on the site. They have the high roller. I think it was the first ever high roller in Canada. Was that what it was, Mike?
I think it was. They've had high rollers in Canada. It was the biggest prize pool tournament was the main event, like the biggest prize pool in Canadian tournament history, which happened. I won like the biggest side event. I didn't win the main event. But that was like 200K Canadian. It was even like an impromptu event, which wasn't supposed to be on the schedule. It was added last minute, and they still got like 200 grand to the winner. Like, it was a good thing. But what you're saying about Party Poker, it's pretty damn impressive what they're doing. There's a lot of things that like I've kind of said. I've been in talks with like Party on a lot of things that I'm not allowed to say publicly. But if you guys think that the cool shit from Party Poker is amazing now, like the things they've done the last few months, it's just scratching the surface of what Party's doing in the next few months. Like, I think Party is going to be making some big fucking moves in the poker industry, and just seeing what they've been up to the last few months and what they have planned for the next few months, I haven't been so optimistic about online poker in years. It's really exciting to see. They're getting good people involved. They're getting guys like John Duthie, building the tournament sketch structures, building the schedules. They just got Mike Sexton. Like, Mike Sexton was so strongly tied to the WPT brand. And I guess they're willing to take like the ambassadors for poker, bring them to their team. They've got Rob Young with Dusk Till Dawn, really trying to do a lot to actually put up good guarantees, run big tournaments. Actually, after PokerShares kind of killing the EPT, they're just doing the exact opposite. It seems like they're trying to make a new kind of premier series of poker tournaments. And again, there's the most exciting things I can't say too much about, but they're exciting things are going on for Party Poker. Basically, I think that they're going to be a big player in the industry in the near future.
And announcing his new Party Poker sponsorship, Michael McDonald, Timex, on here on the podcast today. You got a spot in the team, Mike? What's happening here?
No. I mean, I've actually been offered, like, so we started coming up with the idea for PokerShares in the last 2 years, and I've been offered sponsorships in the last 2 years, but I just want brand. I just want exclusivity. Like, I don't want to be representing multiple gambling brands or anything like that. I'd rather have a large financial interest in a small company than like fucking $3K a month and from a poker site. Like, so I wanted to be writing the paychecks rather than getting the paychecks, basically. So I don't have a Party Poker sponsorship or anything that along those lines coming in the works anytime soon. I'm just excited for what's going on in poker, and I think they're doing good things. I mean, if poker's thriving, PokerShares is thriving. Like, if no one's making any fucking money, how are they going to bet with us? So I'm excited to see good things happen in poker, because I think good things in poker mean good things for our business.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Party Poker right now, 888 Poker, they're at least trying things. So 888 Poker's been teaming up with, I think they just had something with Doug. They got Doug to stream on the side, some sort of mutual beneficial thing. They obviously got Tonka, works with 888. A lot of other guys went out to the 888 tournaments, and they're putting it all over social media. And I got to say, it's about fucking time we're seeing sites like 888, sites like Party really stepping up, trying to take advantage of this opportunity right now that PokerStars is just allowing the industry to sort of have. And I mean, I think the one thing you hear about something like a Party Poker, a lot of people talk about, is the software is the same now as it was back in 2001 when Tough Fish was making YouTube videos on there talking about Empire Maker 2 sucking out on them, man. So Exactly. Yes, exactly. Motherfucker. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, like it seems like it's the exact same software. And some people say, that could be improved.
Yeah, I mean, I think those people may end up being excited. There's I mean, basically, I think that the party poker software is one of their biggest issues.
Well, we got John in the chat. He says it'll get better, Joe. So John says it in the chat. Mike says it in the chat. I mean, listen, man, I don't know. I feel like good things are on the rise, and honestly, it's great to see. It's exciting to see. And I mean, we also got potentially Run It Once Poker still in the mix too, Mike. But imagine that end of the year, we got 3 sites making a charge, 3 sites growing. It seems like the American sites, they're still doing things. They're still trying. They're getting better and better too with ACR. So, I mean, I don't know. It felt like doom and gloom 1 year ago, but now it seems like something to be optimistic for.
So here's a question for you. Like, what do people think is the end goal for a big American site? Like, do people just picture? Like, I mean, I haven't seen exactly what they're doing, but I can roughly guess. Do people just think that ACR could just become a big global market player, and they're never going to have any like repercussions for what they're doing? Or like, I don't know what people expect is sort of the end goal for a flourishing American site.
You want me to be honest with you, Mike? I'm gonna tell you what I think the end goal for ACR is. I'll be honest with you about this. I think that the end goal is for the guys that work at ACR down in Costa Rica to get as much women, get as much sun, get as much drugs, get as much of that in their system, in their life, and keep making money as long as they can and keep enjoying the fruits that Costa Rica has to potentially offer them. That's what I think the end goal for ACR is. As long as they're good, that's good. So that's my take on it. Shout out to them. I don't know. I got no inside information allegedly. I don't know what's happening down there. I'm sure they're working hard, go to their wife, whatever. It's cool. But that's what I think is going on down at ACR headquarters in Costa Rica. Yeah, no,
I imagine it's like as much as like, people hate on like PokerShares and stuff like that. I would guess that the decisions PokerShares makes have a lot more thought that goes into the decision making. I feel like ACR, it's like, okay, cool. Let's like let a few more Americans on. Let's like get some more blow and hose down in Costa Rica. All right, let's fuck it. Like we need to afford more blow. Okay, let's bend some more rules. Like I think it's very very relaxed down there. I would tend to agree with you.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. I mean, PokerStar is probably a little bit different. They're looking over some spreadsheet. They got the spreadsheet numbers out, Mike. They're like, all right, I see we can get 100,000 more here. Let's cut this back. Jim. All right, take this down. Let's cut this back. And they going through the spreadsheet again, looking through the number. I imagine that's how it is at PokerStars. I guess.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very I think there's a lot less blow and hose going on in the Amaya office than in the ACR office.
I'm not ready to commit to that statement. I just
can neither confirm nor deny.
I'm not ready to commit to agreeing with that. I just can't because I don't know. You got my boy Bezos down there. I don't know what he's up to these days, but I gotta say, I've seen Wolf of Wall Street, Mike. You've seen that movie too. You see what they're doing. A little Jordan Belfort and our boy Bazov here. So.
Yeah, that might be it down to a T. That could be what they're doing in the office. You never really know.
Speaking of being in the office, Mike, how's the entrepreneur life treating you right now, man? You got PokerShares, obviously. We had you on the pod when it first came out. Now it's been some months in there. I feel like you guys are doing a good job on social media. You're including me in anything PLO related, which of course I love, man. I love seeing the PLO odds out there, and I love the great game being shown some love. Now, how's the site going overall, man?
It's been really exciting. Like it's been I mean, we probably had more action during the last 2 weeks. So it was like if you asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd be like, oh, things are going quite well. We've got a lot of signups, we've got a lot of turnover, it's exceeded expectations. And then the last 2 weeks, we probably had more total bet than the first four months combined. Like Scoop was fucking crazy. WSOP will probably be even crazier. Like it's basically it's gone from me being like, okay, like we'll see how this project goes. We'll see if it ends up being large enough to justify my time. And it's exceeded all expectations. Just the sheer, how quickly the community accepted it. When we first came out, we only had Skrill as a deposit method. Now people can deposit with credit cards. They can deposit with Bitcoin. Like basically, we're basically allowing people to deposit how they want, and it gives way more freedom. And that's the biggest thing, is just the simplicity of moving money around. Like once people sign up on the site, put money on the site, then they're users, and they're users for good, basically. Like both of those are a bit of hoops where guys don't like filling. Poker players are so lazy, they don't want to fill out a form that takes 3 minutes, and then they don't want to have to transfer from one site to another. But once they're familiar with both of those steps, it'll just be, we'll just like, to get a new customer often takes a decent amount of work. And then once someone's a customer, they're a customer kind of thing. And people have really been enjoying the new website. Like our website looked pretty like raw for a while there. We got Vedran, shout out to Vedran, to help us redesign things there, make it look a lot more aesthetically pleasing. He's been making great banners for us. And now like it just looks like a workable website. Like I don't really care how a website looks, but it's clear based on how many more signups, how much more retention we were getting after updating the website, that the community does care about that. The community does want something that's like aesthetically pleasing, easier to find stuff, and that's been a big improvement to our business as well. But yeah, overall, it's been busy. Like it's been fun. Like I've never really kind of had to do anything. Like I was, school always kind of came fairly easily to me, and I did like quite well in school, but not like really well in school with just limited work. And then poker, I just loved it. I've always loved games. Poker came like quite easily to me as well. And I haven't worked as hard as I should. Basically after I started getting successful at it, kind of like I worked my ass off the first like 3 years. And then now I've kind of like coasted, had smart friends, be able to like get ideas from them and stuff. Like it's not, I haven't really worked that hard at things. And now it's just like, during Scoop, it was like 90 or 100-hour weeks where it's just like it's just like you're awake and you're working on it kind of thing. And it's weird to just like, it's weird. Like I've always thought I knew what busy was, but now I actually kind of know what busy is. And I'm relieved Scoop is done, because while there'll be a ton of action for Super High Roller Bowl and a ton of action for WSOP, it won't be as much just sheer time spent, like the 15 tournaments a day, like figuring out all these different formats, and then not only 15 tournaments per day, but also providing lines for who's going to win this final table, who's going to cash this day two, all these other things. There's just so much for us to do that now I can go back to it being like a normal-ish workload, which will be nice.
Yeah, I want to go back. So you mentioned at the beginning of that the site's been going very successful. Mike, it turns out poker players love to gamble. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought enjoyed gambling? I mean, listen, I was surprised too, Mike, but it turns out they love gambling. So when you have a product like you have, and maybe at first, people sort of wanted to see, is this going to go? Is this legit? Is it going to be run well? Is it a scam? Is it whatever? And I think you've gone to show that no, this is something that's legit. There are plenty of people using it. Some people are making money. I think, I don't know. We haven't seen the spreadsheets. We haven't seen the balance sheets. There's
definitely some people making some pretty big money. Like we haven't finished up the accounting, but I think we lost money over the course of Scoop, despite like we were up like low to mid 6 figures, and we got torched the last weekend. Like we have to figure it all out, but like we had we've had a couple 6-figure winners on the site. We've had a shitload of guys. Like we have countless guys who've just like put €5 on the site, and then a week later they make like a 2K cash out and stuff. Like it's like there's a lot of money changing hands, because it's one of those things. Most people, just like a poker tournament, most people lose, but a few people win big. So we've had we've just had guys put $20 on the site, turn into 5, 10K. Like it's really, I mean, it's basically like, I mean, you join a cash game, you're probably going to win or lose $100 or win or lose $10 or something. But the way our thing looks is it would be like, let's just say you were to have like, if you were to have like a lottery where the lottery is like ultra low rake lottery, people's balances kind of work like they would on that lottery site. Like, our average profit is like 5% instead of like a lottery where it would be like, 40% or something like that. But you just have like a shitload of people losing $50, and then a decent number of people turning $50 into 1,000 or 10,000. Like it's so there's
this sounds like the cigarette ads back in the 1970s, man. I don't know. The cigarette company's telling me to smoke. I mean, you got to tell people this, man. Come on, you ain't gonna be like everyone's coming on site getting. I'm crushing these motherfuckers, man. You can't really come on here and tell me that though. So I expect you to say this, and you're doing well. I don't know what you've been studying some stuff, and you're doing well, kid. I agree. Turn 50. Can I can't use the site, right? Can I do a bankroll challenge on the site or something like that? But I'm American, so Americans can't use it, right?
Yeah, so we hear that so Americans can use the site, but there are two things we don't allow. We don't allow your mailing address to be an American address. We need to verify your residency, so you can't be a resident of America, and then you can't have an American IP address. So like if you have an American passport, that's the only country you're a citizen of, but you have a place in Canada, and you also have an IP address in Canada, you can then use the site. Like it's not like American citizenship that bans you. It's both the address attached to the account and the IP address that you're betting from, and those are where Americans are banned. So so it's like when a lot of people think, oh, I'm American, I can't use the site, but they're up in Canada playing Scoop, like with a place that they own in Canada, and they think that restricts them. So the idea is that no country of citizenship is banned. It's just purely location based. Like it's not us hating Americans. It's America hating Americans that prevents you guys being able to use our software when you're home in Chicago.
Yep. Okay. I don't want to ask any more follow-ups on that question, but technically, let's just move on to another topic here. So, yeah, obviously, World Series of Poker, man. A lot of people are going to be, a lot of action going on there. You have some bracelet bets, activity going to be on the site, or you have some sort of like, what are you going to put up there maybe that people can check out and bet on?
So the one thing we've quickly been realizing is that it's really difficult to handicap anything with an information disparity. And I think that, I think we've definitely lost, a moderate amount of money, but not really a large amount of money in the grand scheme of things for the potential size of the operation. But I think that basically you can't really handicap things when people know more than you, especially when you're trying to have low margins. So it's one thing, like a poker tournament is something like we can roughly know what's going on there. But for something like, the Libratis challenge, it's really tough to bet against, some computer science PhDs who have done AI research, which was a decent amount of our market for that. It's tough for us to have small margins while being able to stay compete with the curve basically. And the same happens, the Scoop leaderboard would be an example. We didn't know that, some of the major players like Sean Deeb and Jason Mercer wouldn't be playing. We didn't realize just how, no limit, we didn't realize the point structure. Basically we thought that being good at the mixed games matters more than it did, but it was just pure volume. So there's just been a few things that I think we've really fucked up due to information disparities. And so things like, will player XYZ win a bracelet? We can't really okay, let's just say, what are the chances Jason Mercer wins a bracelet this year?
1 to 1.
There is a chance that if he's grinding hard, he wins a bracelet 40% of the time. And there is a chance that he's just now raising his kid, he's only going to play the main event, and he's 1 in 5,000 to win a bracelet or something. So it's you really can't put up markets when there's such a large information disparity. And expect to do well, especially because as much as poker players like to gamble, the majority are professional gamblers, and they're not just closing their eyes and throwing darts kind of thing. So you basically certain things that we know reasonably well. We've posted markets will Brazil win a World Series bracelet? Will America win more or less than 55 World Series bracelets this year? We have stuff like that. We have a rough amount of control over, or an understanding over what odds should be. So we're posting odds for that. But for a lot of things, I have no idea how many events Fedor Holtz is going to play, kind of thing. So we can't really have low margins for a lot of these things where there's such a large information disparity. So that's so we will be posting we'll be posting a ton of odds for individual tournaments, but for certain bracelet bets things, it's really tough to make a good line for stuff. But we will try to put up as much as we can.
The life of an entrepreneur right here, man. Mike, Timex McDonald, full entrepreneur life. Are you still, Mike? You still playing any poker outside of the high roller bowl the high roller event that you took down?
Yeah, calling it this high roller bowl, like it makes it sound so much more of an accomplishment. Like, there's like,
man, come on, we're trying to build it up here. You dicked down the high. Come on, that was awesome.
Yeah, and it was a really good thing. Like the $6 million I won there was really nice. I mean, $6 million US. It's not as if I just won like 200 grand Canadian or anything like that. It was prestigious. Like Poker Central did such a great job hyping up my super high roller bowl win. Like it was fantastic. It was just fantastic. No, but on a serious note, I'm playing a bit of poker. I think I played maybe 2 or 3 sessions during Scoop. I'll go down and play the World Series main. Might play a few other World Series events. But not playing as much poker these days. Like I thought it would be very easy to kind of manage both, basically. Like, still be playing poker 40 hours a week, do this as like a side project. But like the community reception's been so good, the amount of interest has been so large, and there's just so many things you can do to like expand things. Like our website is now like we have like a Brazilian version of our website, and we have like Brazilians like marketing for our site, have it up in Portuguese. And we want to do that with more countries. Like we want to be able to have it up in like Cantonese and Mandarin. We want to have it up in the markets that we want to hit. We want to do what we can to expand as much as possible. So we have things like that. I think are a lot more important than me playing like the big 109 on a Wednesday or something like that. I think the upside of this is pretty large, and then I think that especially for our business to grow, it's like with our gambling license, we can do other stuff. We can add a casino, we can add a sports, we can add a poker room. Like there's room for us to grow this business and have us become much more of a much more major over the future of things if we play our cards right.
You say a poker room. You might add a poker room one day, you think?
I mean, I would bet highly against it in 2017. I would bet against it in 2018. But like, if things are like we just see things growing, and I just think like it could be a few years down the road. This would make sense for us. Like we have like a fucking gigantic to-do list. We have like the immediate to-do list, the medium term, the long term. I don't even know if that's on the long term, but it's something that could happen, and it's something like if we think it's going to like. We just want to do what we think is right for the business, and we think our user base would need to get a lot larger before that would be like necessary. But like, why not, basically? So yeah, I think we have a lot of stuff we can do if this were to grow.
Well, I mean, who knows? Sky's the limit. I've heard talking with some friends about what they think about PokerShares, and it seems like people are pretty optimistic about it. They seem like they think that it's a pretty good model. It's being run very well. And I think a lot of people suspect that you will eventually dip outside of poker. That seems to be the overall sentiment I've heard. So I don't know. And you just kind of mentioned that too. And obviously people that have these gambling sites make a lot of money. Like, there's a reason why Vegas exists. These casinos exist is because they can do pretty well. And obviously I feel like your expertise is in poker in terms of figuring out these type of things. But how much do you feel like that knowledge crosses over to potentially sports or to other industries?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like, so being from Waterloo, my city is kind of like Canada's Silicon Valley. They call it like the Silicon Valley of the North. Like I have so many of my friends run startups, and the whole mentality everyone kind of has there is you just kind of. You don't really need to do things that well. You just need to be able to surround yourself with like smarter people than yourself. You need to find people who can do the things you can't. You need to find, okay, this is what our business requires. How do we reach out and get the people who can do the work that is necessary? So it'd be like, me and my business partner Veron, we're both like terrible at aesthetics, and we don't really know what looks good and what doesn't. But we realize, hey, look, the stuff that Vedran's been doing for Bill Perkins and for Jeff Gross and for those guys has been really good. It looks so good. Like, who is this guy? Let's reach out to him. Let's have him try to make some banners for us. Let's have him help us redesign our website. The site looks good now. We're getting like constant compliments on this, and we just you want to find people to do the work that you can't, or not necessarily that you can't do yourself, but in this case, it's work you can't do yourself. You want to find people to do the optimal work, like the optimal work for you. Like, as far as as far as doing accounting for the company, like, sure, we could spend our time doing accounting, or we can like hire a good accountant who understands gambling, who can free out more time of ours to do like actual, like, big picture, like, whatever, managerial type decisions to like figure out what should be done. Like basically our kind of roles right here are to kind of like delegate the work, figure out what needs to be done for the company, find the right people to do it, and then, focus on the things that are important to us. Like one of the big things is people, like my name or my brand is worth a decent amount in this, where a lot of people like gambling with me. So with our highest stakes users, it will have maintaining like relationships with our 10 or 20 biggest users is something that like is a value add I can do to the company, whereas that kind of only I can do, or a small number of people can do. Whereas setting rates, lots of people can do that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that my knowledge there is as important as some other connections-based things within the industry. So I think that long term, basically you're saying like not knowing sports isn't a huge issue so long as you do know people who do know sports who you can have handle that stuff. So yeah, basically I would say that there's like we both are very aware that there are lots of things we don't know, but also very willing to kind of reach out and find people who do know the things we don't know, and that's something that'll be completely necessary for growing as a company.
We said JMO pop in the chat. Jason Mo, shout out to JMO. I know he's been hard on the cryptocurrency grind lately. The king in the castle in the sky, aka Jason Mo. So JMO's been talking about buying a Lamborghini. He's been wanting to buy a Lambo when he said Bitcoin hit a certain price. I think it roared past that price. So I know you may have sold the Lambo. Did you sell the Lambo to Jason Mo, or what's up with this Lambo, man? Why is the Lamborghini no more in the life of Mike Timex McDonald?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, I was a couple of reasons. I mean, the main reason for sure is I'm just not home that much. Like I've always traveled a lot, and I recently bought a place like up in the Rocky Mountains, just outside of Banff. And so I've been spending more time there, and it's just like we got like 2 inches of snow yesterday. Like this is not like Lambo weather or anything like that. So if I'm only going to be spending, like, I probably drive that car 1,000 miles a year or less, and it's going to be even less now that I'm gone. So basically that, like, it doesn't make a ton of sense if I'm going to drive the car like 12 times a year or something like that. And then on top of that, the other thing that worked out fairly well is these cars, they're kind of hedged against the Canadian dollar, in the sense that, when the Canadian dollar is doing well, Canadians go to America to buy cars. And when the Canadian dollar is doing poorly, Americans come to Canada to buy cars. So basically the Canadian dollar has done so poorly during the time that I owned the car that I basically profited off of owning the car, which is, not many people make a 5-year ridiculous purchase like that and then they're able to sell it for more than they paid for it. But that was it would have been much better if I just had US dollars during that time than that. But it ends up being like a reasonable hedge. And so when the Canadian dollar is particularly low right now, it ends up working out okay, I guess.
So the car is officially gone. You don't have the Lambo anymore. The yellow Lambo is sold.
Yeah, exactly. I sold it maybe 2 weeks ago. It was actually, wait a second. It's funnier than that. I shit you not, when I was driving to the dealership to sell the car, the song Black and Yellow came on the radio. This wasn't on my iPod or anything. Black and Yellow came on, and I never thought Black and Yellow could be a song that you'd like feel nostalgic to. Like I wasn't tearing up. I think I said on social media that I was, but I was kind of thinking about, good times I've had with the car, and like I never, I'm probably the only guy in the world who now the song Black and Yellow is like, it's a song about reminiscing.
Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Man, Timex.
Yeah, it's a tough life.
Only the Bank of Timex buys a Lambo for 5 years and makes money on it. Only you, kid. I don't know how you do it, man. But how much you up in cryptocurrency? What are you up, about $35 million, something like that in crypto?
I got into crypto late, and I'm down like $100,000 this morning or something. Like, have you seen how crypto's been doing today?
I mean, I'm not quite as into the crypto market as maybe some other poker players are. Shout out to my boy Ryan Dodge. Shout out to Jason. Shout out to Fees. I know they're out there. They're all about the crypto stuff. But I posted yesterday, Mike, and you showed that video. I'm trying to learn about crypto, man. I don't. It's all confusing to me right now. It feels like poker in 2005, 6, 7, 6.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it feels like it might be even softer than that. It's such a. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I think it's. I think it has objective positives to it, but I also think as an investment, I'm mostly just investing in other people's stupidity kind of thing. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea what it's worth. Like, I think it's likely that long term this has huge objective benefit, but I think the day-to-day movements are mostly just like based on the amount of like hype and buzz that it's got. And I just think that hype and buzz is going to continue. I think just a simple thing is, how many people do you know that in the last 6 months have decided, you know what, I've kind of lost faith in cryptocurrencies. I think I'm going to get out of this industry, or I'm going to sell my position. It's so rare. Like the amount of cryptocurrency is growing. It's like, I don't know, maybe they add an extra 3% per year to the market or something like that. Like there's 16 million Bitcoins. There will be 21 million Bitcoins in 150 years. So maybe they mine like 200,000 coins a year. I don't know the exact amount, but it's maybe even less. It's some relatively small amount that's getting created. But the number of people who are just like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna buy some Bitcoins. Oh, I'm gonna increase my position in Bitcoin. There's just so much more demand than supply that and it's also just one of those things. Everyone gets kind of anchored to the prices that they've paid, which kind of make it difficult for it to really, really tank. Like, it's one of those things. Like, I got into Bitcoin when it was maybe 900 a coin. If tomorrow Bitcoin's like 600 a coin, I'm like, 600, that's so cheap. Like, it was 900. It's gotten better since then. And everyone, all these guys who bought in at 2,200 are now like, oh, sweet. Like, it's dropped to 1,900. I should buy somewhere that's less than 2,200. Everyone kind of gets anchored based on their own price. And I think that kind of leads to it sort of being artificially inflated, and it has a lot of sort of downside protection, I think, unless something really, really bad happens. And I think that just like basically what I'm saying is like I think the emotional reasons behind people being irrational investors just lead to this being a fucking great investment, regardless of if there's anything good intrinsic about Bitcoin. And I think the things that are intrinsically good about it kind of put it through the roof, basically, where I think it's actually on top of the things that make it a quality investment. I think it also is like a quality product that makes, money transfer easier, that makes, it solves a lot of problems. And I think that, I feel like my interest in it is much more in kind of just the kind of the macro level than the micro level, I guess. And I think the macro level is really exciting, basically.
Brandon in the chat says, when your taxi driver starts talking about Bitcoin, the tap is in. And I mean, I think people have been saying that, when it's up to 1,000, they say, oh, this is it. Now it's at 2,500 today. It was at 2,700 the other day. Some people are saying 10,000. Who knows, man? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see anything at this point. I would be surprised to see it really tank completely but as far as how high it could go, man, it seems like it's something that can keep making the great rise. Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that there's a lot of room for this to get bigger and bigger. Someone in the chat mentioned that they say I'm too young to remember the 2000 internet stock bubble. I mean, I remember that. I actually, for whatever reason, I don't give a shit about the market these days, but I used to watch like the investment channel every morning as a kid. I don't really know why. I think it was because my dad was very into investing, and that kind of got me interested in it as well. But I remember when that was going on. And I think that, I mean, there's been countless bubbles throughout history, and there's going to be countless more. I think that this is just one of those things where when a bubble occurs here, it's likely to just, it's likely a bubble just takes it from 10K a coin down to 3K a coin or something. Like there's still a lot of money coming into this. The amount of new Bitcoin coming out per day is something. Someone showed me the numbers on it, but the amount of new Bitcoin coming out per day is something. It's something small, like $3 million or something like that, and the amount of
money that's getting added to these exchanges like $50 million. Those numbers, I completely pulled those numbers out of my ass. They could be way off, but basically, there's way more money that's getting added to this than there is that's actually there's more money coming in than is being created, and I think that makes it fairly difficult for it to really tank when a lot of people, I think most people's mentality for Bitcoin is like, let's invest an amount that it could get lit on fire tomorrow and it's not going to affect my life. Like there are guys who are like all in on Bitcoin, but I would say that the majority of money that's held there, people are just kind of holding there. And if Bitcoin dropped a bunch tomorrow, something really bad would need to happen before I would not want to invest more. Like if it goes to like, everyone has a threshold, and for me, it would have to be pretty low before I'd want to invest a bunch more in. But that number it's very real, and I'd be very willing to kind of put my money where my mouth is. And I think other guys who are even more bullish on Bitcoin are willing to put money in sooner, to where it's really tough for it to go down a lot. Right? It's like if right now it was at 2,700 this morning, it's had its biggest drop off in probably months, probably since the ETF got declined. I don't think it's had anything as violent of a decrease as this. And I think the only reason a decrease this violent is even possible is because it went from like 2,300 up to 2,700 in such a short period of time. So there's maybe let's say there's 5 million Bitcoin holders, again, number I'm making up, probably only 50,000 people or 20,000 people got in within that 24-hour span. So basically that means only 1% of the Bitcoin population is anchored to a price above 2,300. So there's less downside protection after such an immediate increase. Whereas say we look at a number that it got to a little while ago, it got to 1,800 maybe what is that, a month ago or something like that? I forget exactly, maybe a month and a half ago. So since it got to 1,800 a month and a half ago, probably 20% of people in Bitcoin, maybe more than that, have gotten in the last month and a half. It's had so much hype. So I feel like you've got 20% of people that are anchored to this price that are likely just going to want to buy more. If I bought Bitcoin for 1950, now I can buy some for 1750. 1750 is less than 1950. I'll buy some more. I think there's just lots and lots of room for that, where when it hits thresholds where people irrationally think, okay, now it's low, there's just a lot of upward pressure, and it's tough for the people, when most people who own Bitcoin believe in it so much, it's tough for there to ever be more money exiting than there is entering.
Well, I may have learned more in this last 5 minutes about investing than I've ever known in my entire life. So I am thank you, Michael, for that. It makes some sense.
I don't even know if this is even really about investing so much as it is about human stupidity, I guess. So I wouldn't really apply. I wouldn't go apply this to everything, but I feel reasonably confident with Bitcoin that there's just going to be upward pressure for anything short of whatever, the US banning Bitcoin, or something like that.
I feel like this gets you fired up more than maybe poker does, man.
I mean, it's pretty interesting, and it's something I'm not a guy like Jason Moe who's been into this for years. I've just been into this for. I mean, I guess I first bought Bitcoin maybe 4 years ago, but it was just a very small amount. Put it on an exchange that robbed me. So I was just like, fuck this, I'm not getting the Bitcoin. As more and more people said positive things about it, I was just like, okay, you know what? I should really start doing more research. Really just thought, really started considering it more kind of mid 2016 or something like that. And then I've kind of gotten, become more of a firm believer in the last year.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to get some people on to talk more about Bitcoin. I'm going to have on some poker, maybe 1 or 2 poker players. Probably have my buddy Ryan Dodd on, DFS guy. He's all about Bitcoin. You know Ryan Dodd, right, Mike?
Yep. Yeah, I've known him for a while.
Yeah, we were chatting. I chatted yesterday. I said, hey, I want to get you back on the pod to talk Bitcoin. He's like, basically, it'd be like I'm like the Dan Shack of Bitcoin. So you can either have on the Hollywood Hex and a Bitcoin, you could have on the Dan Shack of Bitcoin. I was like, well, I like the Dan Shack of Bitcoin too. That's my, I like that kind of person too. So, but we're going to have some official And Boss is a Bitcoin who understand this shit quite well on, because I'm trying to figure out more about it. I'm sure a lot of other people in poker are trying to figure out the same thing. So it's sort of this mysterious thing for some people out there.
Yeah, I think that there's, I mean, it's a pretty like, you know, it's just like a complicated thing that people, I don't think very many people really fully understand it. Like I don't understand it at all. It's, you know, and I feel like I know more than a lot of people do. Like I feel like, I mean, I'm probably like, I would be the Kevin Hart of Bitcoin probably. Like I'm not like, I would be calling me the Dan Shack of Bitcoin would be like a massive insult to Dan Shack, because I'm more the Kevin Hart of Bitcoin.
All right, let's talk about this 300K Super High Roller Bowl. So 300K Super High Roller Bowl, you got odds for all the players up there. I'm excited for the event. I can't wait for it to go down here. So we're going to run through some of these guys here, and we're going to talk about what prices, how prices came to be. So in this situation, if just kind of run through it. So if the markup is at 1 for a player, that means that a person can go on your site and they buy what for what? Just explain that to the people.
Yeah, so basically, so in this tournament, so in any tournament, the markup is the premium that you pay for investing in a person. And so in this basically, it's a $300,000 tournament. So if you were to give $300,000, you would get 100% of their earnings, basically. So in this, like, you know, if you were to bet $3,000, you'd have 1%. If there's a 1.0 markup. And this tournament's fairly interesting because it's one of the only tournaments of the year that has no rake. So that definitely makes things easier. Like some tournaments have like 13% rake or something like that. Mm-hmm. This one has absolutely 0. So that would be, and then the other thing, there's something else. Oh yeah, basically we allow bets of anywhere down to like €1 as well. So it's not like you have to buy like a full 1%. Okay, one sec. People in the chat are asking about to move the golf club. One sec. Yo, Aaron, you be able to move like a foot left? People just coming in the camera. Yeah, my roommate's practicing his golf swing right here.
Rough life. What is it? Wednesday, Thursday afternoon, practicing the golf swing. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he does DFS for a living, and now the basketball season's basically done. That's now he's full-time pro golfer.
Just practicing his golf swing. Hey, listen, man, rough life for us out there sometimes.
Oh yeah, super tough. All right, so yeah, all right, now things should be good. But yeah, so basically, so yeah, then if someone's below 1, that means you can buy them at a discount. I think of the 55 players in the field, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So like, yeah, 14 of the guys were selling at a discount, and then 41 of the guys were selling at a premium. And then you can, just choose who you'd want to bet on, and then bet on them.
All right, let's get into some of these guys here. So we got the lowest markup here, Timex, out of all this field. And I think there's still one guy to be announced, but I'm not sure who that's going to be to replace Bobby Baldwin. But we got my boy, Kevin Hart on here, 0.6. So you're telling me 0.6. You're marking this man down a lot. You really, so Kevin Hart, honestly, Mike, I got to be honest. I think you could go lower. I mean, okay. I don't see Kevin Hart making money in this event. Just going to say it. I don't see him making money. How do you decide on 0.6 in this spot? 0.6, what's up with that?
Yeah, I mean, we're like, it's really tough to estimate what the win rates are for the weaker players. And the one thing that's an interesting thought about, like, people are always like, oh, this guy's minus 90% ROI. The ceiling on what you can lose in a poker tournament is 100%. The ceiling on what you can win in a poker tournament, is like, in this case, it's 2,000%. So it's basically like, the different, like, so if the worst you can do is minus 100, people think that the massive minuses are kind of the same as the massive pluses, but like, the maximum is plus 2,000. This is, so it's like, let's just say you compare a guy with a 1,000% ROI to a guy with a 500% ROI. Like, those numbers sound like massively different, kind of like, like, basically that would be like a guy who's like, can super use you and see both your cards versus like, Fedor or something like that. Like, it would be like, there's a pretty big difference between 1,000% and 500% ROI, but someone with a minus 90% ROI and minus 80% ROI, those sound pretty much the same in your head, but that's the same size difference. Like, you're both approaching approaching the limit of what you can do. And, you know, a guy who with a minus 90% ROI, maybe when he gets it all in, he has 25% equity on average. And the guy with the minus 80% ROI has 37% ROI on average. Like it really compounds quickly to where like it's tough to lose a lot in a tournament. Like, you know, if someone is minus 40% ROI, that would be as impressive of a loser as a plus 70% ROI would be as a winner kind of thing. And people don't think about this too much, but basically, you know, 1% compounds a lot. Like it compounds a lot more. So being 1% worse than someone on the losing end is a lot tougher than being 1% than someone on the winning end, because it compounds positively on the one side and it compounds negatively on the other side. So it doesn't take much to cash a poker tournament kind of thing. Like, so I don't know that much about Kevin Hart's game. But I'm assuming he's like losing pretty substantially. But the main point is that you always hear guys say, oh, this guy's like minus 90% ROI. You're like, oh, this guy I beat heads up is like minus 90% ROI. And you're like, well, you beat him heads up in a 500-person tournament. Like, does that mean for the next like 5,000 tournaments, he's not even going to cash once? Like, how does he get this minus 90% ROI? Like, you know, it's usually the guys that people talk about as being really bad are like minus 30% or minus 20%. Like if you look up the worst guy you've played with on SharkScope or something, I'll bet you he's not losing 90% kind of thing. So I guess the point is that people see the ROIs on the upside, and then, you know, let's say someone thinks that Kevin Hart should be 0.25 or something like that. Well, him being at 0.25 is like the equivalent of someone on the plus side of being plus 300% or something. So basically what I'm saying is it scales out really aggressively on the high end, but it scales out really like minutely on the low end, because there's a pretty massive difference between 0.25 and 0.3. So I guess, you know, what I'm saying there is that it's tough to know in these situations, but it's not that tough to just win a few all-ins and cash a tournament, basically. So it's tough for someone to really lose a lot.
With that said, I think Kevin Hart may be a little lower. 0.2, 0.1. What would you buy him at, Mike? Let's say you're me. What would you want to buy Kevin Hart at? Like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable putting any amount of money on Kevin Hart in this tournament.
I mean, I think I would. I think I'd pretty damn happily buy him at 0.33. I think I'd have trouble buying him at 0.5, but it's you know, it's like stranger things have happened than Kevin Hart winning a tournament.
How amazing would that be, by the way, if Kevin Hart somehow final tables this event? I mean,
it's not as tough as you think. It's not as tough as you think it is. Basically, like there are just so many times that someone who's worse like wins the tournament. Kind of. It's not that tough. I think it's, you know, you talk about it like it's a pipe dream, but it definitely could happen.
Well, let's go with some of these other names in here. We got Lauren Robertson, John Morgan, the next guys. They're at 0.7. So I know Lauren. She plays a lot of high stakes cash games. And I think this is her, I don't know how many high stakes tournaments she plays. And then John Morgan, obviously, he's been around Poker World for a long time playing high stakes games. So I think those make sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, they're two of the less experienced guys. Like, I think most of the recreational guys here play a shitload, basically, and I think that they don't play as much as some of the other recreational players.
All right, we got Luce Leon, my boy, Luce Leon, the King's Casino owner, and we've seen Luce Leon play Potman Omaha on some of the PL Okerhand videos on my site or on my YouTube channel, and I gotta say, I love my boy Luce Leon, Mike, but the guy's name's Luce Leon. He comes to play. He's not a fan of folding. This is not a guy that's looking to put money. He owns a casino. Yeah. So. But I don't know. He might be my sleeper out of here. We got him at 0.75, and we have two guys who I know they played last year, I think, but I don't remember. I don't know who they are. Dan Perper and Zach Hyman at 0.8.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know either of those guys too well. I know at one point Doc Sands was coaching Dan Perper, and I know a bunch of people have said he's one of the better recreational players. Zach Hyman, he's pretty young. Like I guess he's under 40. And I played with him one time in like 100K, and I just assumed he was a pro for a little while. I think he'd also be one of the stronger recreational players too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna look these guys up. And then we have David Einhorn, of course, one of the, I can't remember which industry he's involved in, but I'm pretty sure he's a billionaire. He's at 0.8. Bill Klein at 0.8,
Yes.
of course. Bill Klein, infamous from high stakes poker, when I think he made a big call, I believe, right? He made a big call against Viffer or something like that. I think, was that him?
I'm not too sure. David Einhorn's one guy I know a decent amount better. Like he runs Greenlight Capital, which is one of the bigger hedge funds. Okay. I actually coached him a fair bit a couple of years ago. Like when he was playing the first one drop, he reached out to Eric Seidel, wanted coaching, and then Eric basically said he doesn't really do much coaching, but he recommended David talk to me. And it was, that was a pretty cool experience. Like, basically, if you read his like Wikipedia page, like he was going to buy the New York Mets. At one point, he was suing Apple. Like he's done some pretty like big shit. And it's funny that like in his time off, he's just getting poker coaching from like a 21 or 22-year-old at the time. So that was, I know his game better than, and he actually came third place in the $1 Million tournament that year. But yeah, I know his game better than I know Bill Klein's game. I've heard, I think both those guys are kind of on the, there's kind of the level, like there's kind of like the, the Dan Shack type level where it's like they play, Dan Shack plays more poker than I do kind of thing. Like I would say these guys would be two of the stronger guys that aren't on the like, almost like pseudo professional level kind of thing, which is where all the guys in sort of like in the point or Kerry Katz, like, that's kind of the level that would be, the tier above this, but I think that they're kind of approaching that.
Yeah. Next up, also 0.9. We got three guys here: Dan Shack, my boy Bill Perkins, and Tony G. Tony G took a break from running the country of Lithuania. I don't know what, he's a senator there or some sort of in parliament. So you got those three. Now I would feel like I would see Tony G maybe a little higher than Dan Shack and BP, but those three at the same price, huh? So Tony G, you think that he's been taking time off?
Yeah, so he's been taking time off, and he was never really like a poker pro in the first place kind of thing. Like he's always been more on like the business side of things, kind of well branded being on TV, but was not like, I don't think he's I don't know. He was never like, duking it out at high stakes games online or anything like that. I don't think so. I think he's like, I think this is a field where this is such a tough field here. Like the tier of guys we're getting to, like people will see like, Dan Shack or Tony G on TV, and they'll be like, losing a pot to like, Dan Coleman or something. I'm like, oh, like these guys are bad. They're like worse than Dan Coleman or something. But it's like the recreational players at this level are pretty good. And it's also, if most people who place like small or mid stakes poker, if you put them into the highest stakes game they've ever played, they're going to play kind of shitty kind of thing. Like when I play with like, a mid stakes professional deep in a live tournament, or oftentimes even times they sell pieces to get into a super high roller, they're some of the easiest players to play against, because they're just like, they have like they know. Like, I know that they'll play somewhat similar to me, and they'll just be like petrified of fucking up and having to tell their backer how much money they fucked up for kind of thing. Where a lot of pros just become quite straightforward. And I think this is kind of how some guys like Fedor crush so much that even say guys like on my level will get like kind of shook when they get in a pot against Fedor, and they'll be like, oh, well, I don't want to mess up against Fedor, and they just play this like super ABC style. And I think that happens at kind of all tiers of poker. And I think that people think, oh, well, that's what other people do, but I don't do that myself. But I've definitely noticed situations when I'm playing against like top tier players where I won't be like as creative, like I won't make as many big moves. Like I don't want to bust to like Hollywood, like, or the less so now, but like say when I was like 21 or whatnot, I don't want to bust to like Hollywood Haxton and then have, as I like leave the table, like him and the other guys that I respect him, like, did you see that? Not like that it's supposed to be good. Like I don't want to. Like I think a lot of people kind of feel they have this sort of something to prove, and it leads to people just not pulling the trigger. And when people won't pull the trigger, it makes it so much easier to play against them. So I think that that's something that happens a lot in poker, and most of the recreational players don't have that nearly as much. And so it leads to like Dan Shack is much more of like a force to be reckoned with than like some mid-stakes pro if he hopped into this 300K for the first time.
You just actually said one of the big reasons why I think anonymous poker and Ignition is so soft is because you're anonymous, so that when you're playing the 10-20 games on there, you don't like, if I'm going to make a play And if it's a fucking dumb play, I'm not going to mind. But if I know it's going to be posted on Twitter, it's going to be posted on 2+2, I am not going to make that play. So I think it's like this huge thing. And also, I think on sites where you know screen names on PokerStars or anything like that, when you're playing the higher stakes and you know someone's shot taking because of fun players in the game, or you know they might be backed, or you know some more of their story. Now, I think that certain players, I mean, maybe now they're not as bad. It's not as bad as it was before. But I think for years, you could take advantage of these guys quite well because they weren't really ever mixing it up with you, especially if they're bum hunting. And I mean, that's another whole bum hunter versus regular dynamic that you get into when you play against the weaker bum hunters, the scripters and stuff like that, is that they're just looking to avoid spots like that. So you can just punish them over and over in the same spots, and they're never really going to do anything about it. So it's this very interesting dynamic you have. And it's interesting to hear that you talk about, I said interesting like 10 times, but it is interesting. I need to find a synonym in the thesaurus here. But yeah, to hear that about how it works in higher stakes tournaments.
Yeah, I think the higher stakes you go, the more it's the case. And also face to face, like people just have this sort of like embarrassment of like, oh shit, I wasted my big opportunity by running this stupid bluff or something. I think it leads to a lot of people just getting too cautious.
Yeah. Let's go to these next guys here, kid. We got Haralabab Vogetis 0.98, Haralabab 0.98, Carrie Katz 0.99, and the Poker Brat, my recent podcast guest, Phil Hellmuth at 0.99. I gotta say, Mike, this seems pretty fucking insulting to Phil. I just gotta say it. I mean, come on, Phil, 0.99 with Carrie Katz and Haralabab. I mean,
so here's something you might find a little interesting. So if you look on the website, you can see the percent available. We start everyone at 5%. You'll notice Carrie Katz is at 3.77%, and Hellmuth is at 5%. So literally, what that means is that, you know, if people buy more than like $30 worth of action, then that'll drop Phil Hellmuth down to like 4.99%. So we've had Phil Hellmuth up at markdown, and not a single person has bet on him. And people have bet on Carrie Katz. Like people have placed about €4,000 worth of wagers on Carrie Katz, and less than $30 worth of wagers on Phil Hellmuth. So I mean, we're obviously we're a marketplace here. Like, you know, you can kind of, you know, bet on what you want, but if right here it seems like Carrie Katz is, you know, more popular than Haralabab or Phil Hellmuth.
I'd like to book the max on Phil Hellmuth right now.
You'd like to, I mean, so do you, if you like, you need, if you have like, I mean, if you have a friend who has an account, they're able to do that basically, but like the maximum for an American, you can't do it. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
All right.
I mean, like, hey, you know, we have Phil on the pod. I expect him to do well, but I mean, come on. I mean, I'm just kidding. Come on.
All right. Yeah, I mean, other people are welcome to book the max if they want to, kind of thing. Like, I mean, I don't know his game as well as some people. I would bet. Let me check right now, see if anyone's bet on Phil Hellmuth. I feel like someone who's a user is like, oh shit, Phil Hellmuth at markdown. I'm guessing that there's probably someone's get your bets in. Let's see who.
I think Phil Hellmuth's got. I mean, come on, he's one of the best. He's been crushing Nolan Holm cash games and tournaments for 30 years plus, Mike. Since before we were born, man, Phil Hellmuth's been out there. I don't know, man. I talked to him yesterday. I got confidence in my boy Phil Hellmuth.
Yeah, I mean, like,
let's move on. Next up, we got Antonio Esfandiari and Talal Shaketchi. Talal, of course, rate a lot online. Won the Scoop Main event last year. We had him on the podcast last summer. You got Antonio and Talal at 1.02. Mm-hmm. I like those. Those seem. I mean, it seems like Antonio might be higher than Talal. I mean, Talal. I don't. You know, I got.
Yeah, I mean,
price for these two, huh?
Yeah, so I think Talal is about as good as it gets for recreational players, kind of thing. Like Talal, he's told me basically, hey Mike, like if I can ever buy myself at markdown, let me know. Like he told me that maybe 2 years ago, and I've messaged him maybe like 2 or 3 times in 2 years, where it's like I think he's winning in a lot of these super high rollers. I think he's winning in almost every high roller. Like it's sort of, I think I said like, okay, like if you want to buy yourself in the 25K scoop, you can buy yourself at 0.98 or something. Like I think Talal is really good. I mean, he won the toughest tournament of the year last year, and I don't think that's a coincidence or anything. Like I think he's good, basically. I mean, I think he retired maybe a couple of years ago, and poker's kind of his full-time thing now.
All right, next up on the list. Now we start getting some I'd say the better players in the tournament from here on out. We got Sam Salverl and Matt Berkey. Matt Berkey just had on the pod 1.12. Matt Berkey finished in the money last year. And then Sam Salverl, he plays a lot of high stakes cash, a lot of high stakes tournaments as well. I feel like those guys are both pretty good players. So now we got 1.12. So now from here on down, as we got a lot of names in here who I think people are going to recognize as some better players, you know, how are we differentiating between what these guys are at and what some of the guys even farther down are at?
Yeah, so I mean, basically we kind of asked a lot of opinions from different people, kind of, you know, where they'd rank various guys, what sort of tiers they are, how much better do people think the 10th best player is from the 20th best player, 20th versus 30th, first versus 10th. Like, you know, we kind of just, you know, sort of took a bunch of opinions, kind of averaged them out. And then, you know, it's like, let's just say right here, we've got Brian Rast. You know, there's been like 14,000 euros bet on Brian Rast and like 18,000 euros bet on Jake Schindler. Like, so those might be examples where, you know, for the next high roller, maybe boost those guys each up 3%, unless we believe the guys betting on them are pretty bad kind of thing, or, you know, not that knowledgeable. But it's just one of those, like, it's pretty reasonable. Like, you know, if there's been $0 bet on plenty of these guys and a lot bet on those two, that it's likely those guys have been underpriced, so we could, you know, bump them up a few percent kind of thing. So I think that's a good amount of what we're doing is just sort of, you just kind of, the one thing that's nice about super high rollers is, okay, let's just say when it comes to, like, you know, handicapping a basketball game or something, it's relatively tough to do so because there's so many factors that play into each game. If this guy's like, if his right knee is bothering him a little bit, like, you know, you've got to do all this stuff and then let the market happen. But I think that the day-to-day performance of people in poker events is way less volatile than it would be in some sports and stuff. So it's easy to just kind of, you know, we kind of see what the market thinks for each of these guys. If no one's ever buying a certain guy at a certain markup, like, you know, if no one's ever touching PLP at 1.21, okay, next time we make him 1.2. If no one touches him, 1.19. Like, it's easy to just kind of move things around and see what prices people like, what they don't like. And yeah, I mean, it's not like an overly systematic thing. We just kind of weigh the opinions of masses, basically.
All right, let's keep going with these names. I'm liking this part now. Now we got my boy Jason Less, and Ann Cush Montavia. Ann Cush and Jason are at 1.16, which seems good, I guess. I don't know if they would agree. And then this one's a big one, 1.19. We got some mixture of names in here, buddy. We got Brian Rast, the King, Sean Winter, Stefan Shahable. I think that's one of Fedor's guys. Stefan Shahable, Daniel Negreanu, Andrew Roble, and Jake Schindler, and Christian Christner. So the King, Brian Rast, you got them in the same group of those guys. I feel like Brian's got he's got a lot of success in these tournaments, plays high stakes cash pretty much every day. It seems like in Vegas, plays a lot of tournaments. I feel like Brian, I would expect to see him higher than 1.19 here. I mean,
yeah, I'd say Brian is probably the, second most accomplished in this group. Yeah, this is a pretty strong group. Like the description you gave there is like plays a lot of high stakes tournaments, plays high stakes cash. That describes like almost all these guys. Like some of these guys don't play, the Fedor's guys don't play high stakes cash. I don't know about Jake Schindler, but Roble, Negreanu, and Sean Winter, these guys all play high. It basically, this is getting to some fucking, it's like the best poker players in the world play this. Like being lowish on this list, these guys are still likely top 50 tournament players in the world kind of thing. Like, so it's really, this is a tough tournament. Like all the best people who can justify it, try to get on the list to play this thing.
The King Brian Rast, man. I don't know. I'm scared to tell him that he's 1.19 with. I'm never gonna tell Brian the group of 1.19. You put him out on this list, he's gonna be pissed, man. I just know Brian. He's gonna be. I want to book $7 million with Timex. You call him up and get him on the phone, man. I don't know.
Another thing sort of worth noting is it's really tight in the middle here, basically. Where it's like, let's say you compare Brian, the difference between Brian Rast and Antonio and Talal or something, that'd be 0.17. if you go 0.17 in the other direction, there's only like 3 or 4 guys higher than that kind of. So it's basically saying we're like, he's closer to these guys in the 1.3 range. He's closer to a Dan Smith, a Connor Drynan, a David Peters, a Tom Marchese than he'd be to an Antonio Talal kind of thing. So it's basically a lot of I feel like we got a lot of hate from guys. Like almost everyone who's 1.19 has reached out to us at one point or another, being like, "You think I'm that low?" Like, but so much of the field is between 119 and 127 kind of thing. So it's not. It's
making enemies, Mike, huh? Is anybody pissed at you? Is anybody like mad for real? Like, what the fuck?
I don't know if I should be commenting too much or anything, because there's the one thing. It's like you've got me like the personal level me, but then you've also got like whatever our corporation, where I don't think I should be saying like, oh, like emails to support or I shouldn't be too open about certain things.
I agree. All right, we got 1.20 Corey Aldemer and John Jawanda. So Corey Aldemer, is he Fedor's guy too?
Yeah, he's the guy. I think, did he win the 1-drop last year?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I honestly, man, it's tough to keep the Fedor bots, apart sometimes. Yeah, he won the Triton Super High Roller Series in Manila this year. I think he got third place in something. Third place.
Oh, he got third place in the 1-drop. That's what it was.
Third place in the 1-drop. Yeah. So obviously he's both of those guys. John Jawanda seems like he's making a comeback here in the poker world. He's been playing a lot more of the high stakes stuff too. 1.21, we got last year's champ, Rainer Kempe, Byron Caverman, and PLP, Mr. Upswing Poker, Future Upswing Poker Tournament course next week. PLP's course is coming out. I'm giving away 20 bonus videos for people that sign up with the link in the description. That's not there right now, but I can't wait till that comes out next Monday, because I'm going to learn how to play tournaments. It's not true. I'm just saying that. But so we got those 3, PLP, Byron, and Rainer, man. I like my guy out of that PLP. I got to go with my guy PLP out of that list.
Yeah, I mean, he's my guy too as well. Like I don't know if I'm allowed. I don't know if it makes a ton of sense for me to bet against myself, but I would love to see PLB have a big score. One of my best. No
one loves poker more than that guy, Mike. That's why they call him Poker Love and Pratt. Ain't nobody love poker more than him, man.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, 1.22. Let's see who we got. Dominic Nisch, the young German, and 888 Poker, and Andrew Lichtenberger, Lucky Chewy, so 1.22.
Yeah.
So I guess, how much really differentiates, because I see this 1.19 and 1.22, and as you say, it's not that big of a gap when you compare some other numbers. So what's like the actual separation in terms of percentage in that situation?
3%.
I'm saying from your side of things. So when you put into a ROI, when you put into the Timex numbers, what's that come down to difference wise?
2.9%. I don't know. I mean, we on average tried to price the field and then mark them up like about 6 to 8% or so based on our perception of things. And then that's kind of I don't know. So things get marked up. So 2 point. I guess you'd think someone's like 2.9% better or something like that. I've been factoring in the premium charge. I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
I'm happy. I don't know. I've never bought any pieces of anybody at markup, so I've never really bought pieces. So this is sort of all like, this is all foreign stuff to me, and I'm happy. I don't want to buy pieces. I'm not trying to buy no tournaments. You
said you want Helmuth. You said you want Max. You said all in Helmuth. You got a little excited for a little while there.
I'm comfortable to make that play on Helmuth. That's I don't know, man. I got faith. He got the podcast run it on his side, but you got the podcast run it on your side too now, so I'm a little bit worried. 1.23, we got a man all by himself. We got the Supreme Leader, Douglas K. Polk at 1.23. Has he been a popular item so far?
So he's not 5. He's 4.99, which I guess means like $30 to $50 has been bet on him. So he's had. I mean, probably about half or a little over half these guys have had no bets on them. Doug's had some small bets, but I guess none of our larger bettors have bet on him yet.
All right, let's go here. 1.24. Bryn Kenny, been crushing it this year, it seems like, at the high rollers. And Eric Seidel, a man seems like he's been doing it now for many, many years. I feel like those are both great options to bet on. You're right, man. We are really, this is just
like a who's who in poker. Like it really is just, it's hard to think any of these guys are, not fantastic players.
Next up at 1.25, we got Hashtag King. What the fuck did Hashtag King get on there? 1.25 for Hashtag King? Are you serious right now, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, Hashtag King, he's been working on his game a lot. I think I think he really, rises to the challenge. And obviously he's a little better than Doug Polk after winning that $1 million heads up match against Doug Polk. So that's why we charge a little more markup for him.
How much did you guys make a lot of money? Because I feel like everyone on the site bet Doug Polk for that heads up match, and then Hashtag King ended up taking it down. So I feel like did you guys prosper in that heads up match?
Yeah, that's next time I do my stream, I'll be streaming from my own yacht and stuff. So we crushed it there.
It's awesome, man. All right, move on.
I backed him there. He sold me some of his watches and his chains and such, so I was able to get a large amount of the buy-ins on top of what I won through PokerShares. I also won a lot of the $1 million he won from Doug.
That makes sense. I mean, obviously, he's got a lot of prized possessions that are very nice. He's got some great watches, great chains. I feel like a guy like you, a flashy kid like yourself, would be looking to pick those things up, man. That's awesome. I'm glad you did well from that, man. 1.25. We got Stefan Sondheimer, Jason Mercier, Jason Kuhn coming on the podcast tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I like those three. I could not point Stefan out, unfortunately, if you said this is, I'll give you $1 million. You point out Stefan because I don't know much about him. Shout out to Stefan. I'm sure he'll end up winning this year, and I'll know all about him. I probably do know who he is actually too. But you got him in there with Jay Kuhn and with Mercier. So how do you price a guy like Stefan, who, I mean, someone like me, I don't know anything about him. So how do you decide on him price being the same as the other two guys, Jason Mercier and Jason Kuhn?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd say if it came down to say this format was like online. If this format was an online cash game, he would probably be maybe number 3 in the field behind like Ben Sol, or maybe number 4 behind like Ben Solsky, Christoph, and maybe Ike. So he's just like killed it at online cash, done very well there. He's one of Fedor's boys. I think he's even like helped Fedor a lot with just like with deeper stack situations and stuff. Like I think he's just like
what's his online name? Do you know?
Goosecore.
Oh shit! Never mind. Never mind. I take it back. I take back what I said. I didn't know it was Goosecore. I do know Goosecore, so got the Goosecore. He's a beast. Yeah, okay, it makes sense. Never mind.
Yeah, so that's like he's less experienced live, less experienced at tournaments. Like we're at a really high tier right now as far as guys. So it's like if this was played out online, you'd probably put him in a higher tier. Probably some live inexperience will like hurt him here. Like it's really tough to know, to put yourself in the shoes of a more inexperienced live player. Cause like comparing what he's going to see at the table versus what Eric Seidel is going to see at the table, like I can just probably deduce when I one, notice that I constantly get better when I play live poker. 2, I know that I think my fundamentals are a good bit better than Eric's, but his results continue to be better than mine. It's pretty reasonable to assume he's seeing a lot more at the table. I mean, he's probably spent 4 times as many hours at the live poker table as me. It's pretty easy to assume that the ceiling for reading people is a lot higher than it is. And guys like him, guys like Negrano, guys like John Jawanda are above where I'm at. They're closer to that ceiling. But then it's tough to know for the guys below you. When I first started playing live poker, I didn't really know who looked strong, who looked weak, and it's tough to know. From presumably, someone like Stefan Sondheimer would be like worse than someone like me at reading people, but it's tough to know, is he 10% worse or is he 90% worse? And so it's tough to price the more inexperienced live players. Same with other guys in Fedor's crew. Same with even someone like a Pratt, where it's like Pratt has half the hours I do at the live poker table. It's tough to know just where he would fall. It's easy to assume. I think it's reasonably easy to assume the more hours you've spent at the live table, the better you'll be at reading people on average. But there's obviously like exceptions to that kind of thing. Like I feel like I've played more live poker than Connor Drynan, but I feel like when we talk hands, he picks up a lot more things than I do, kind of thing. Like I think that so there's definitely exceptions to things like this. I would assume Fedor's probably played half or 2/3 as many hours. I think I've just got to assume he's probably better than me live by a fair bit, kind of thing. Like I think that there's certain factoring in those things beyond just like someone's fundamental poker game is a pretty major focus, is a pretty important thing when estimating edges in a live poker tournament, and it makes it tough to guess when you have no idea where the ceiling is. Like you have no idea just how much people are giving away when you kind of only know what you know kind of thing.
All right.
So yeah, it's tough to be, it's tough to be dead on. Like for the absolute crushers, it's tough to know how much of them winning so much is a result of variance, how much of a result is a result of them just like really just like for like, just guessing right 80% of the time when the rest of us guess right 55% of the time.
Next up in here, we got 1.26. We got Ben86, Ben Tallerine, one of the all-time favorite podcast guests here. Justin Bonomo, Z Justin, I believe, just took down that first 10K event at the Aria. I think Tony G won the 25K as well. And we got PokerStars Pro Igor Kurganov at that 1.26. I say out of those three, tough one, man. Who I would pick out of those three right there. I mean, I could go flip a coin. I feel like Justin's probably been playing more poker than the other two guys, so maybe out of that, I would just go with Justin. But I don't think you could go wrong with any three of those guys right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically all these guys in sort of the 119 tier and above are sick players, kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
I think that it's we're getting to the. I mean, these are the best players in the world.
Right. 1.27. We got Ike Hollywood Haxton in here. Nick Petrangelo, who seems like he's been fucking crushing it here. Ben Salsky Sauce 123 and Tom Marchese, all guys who are great at poker. Out of those four, I mean, I like this. I like trying to go through these four, man. I guess I got to go with I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I couldn't even pick. I don't know, man. Nick Petrangelo seems like he's got such great results. It's crazy. He's been doing super well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's had insane results. Like I think if you were to go through the EPT high roller that comes at the end of a festival, I feel like Nick Petrangelo has had more success at that tournament than any poker player has had at any other tournament. Like it's like every stop for like 2 years, he just gets like third place in like 15 of these in a row. It's like he in these high roller fields, he's had like an insane amount of success. I don't know if he's had as much super high roller success as a lot of guys, but the other thing that's kind of nice about high roller success as opposed to super high roller success is you're more likely to have a big piece of yourself. Like if you have a big score in 100K, you probably just have like a small amount, but it's easy to just like win a bunch of 10Ks with 100% of yourself.
Next up here, we got Mike Timex McDonald at 1.3. Mike, you going down to the? Well, you're not. Why aren't you playing, Mike? You're not. Come on, I figure you'd be playing this for sure, man.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to get enough scratch together to play it. Sold my car. I thought that I'd be able to afford it. Got a little less than I expected. Forgot how weak the Canadian dollar was, so just couldn't find the 300 grand.
Yeah, I mean, Canadian dollar, it's like 800,000 buy-in for you. So I mean, it makes sense why you might not want to go down and play it.
Exactly. I need to sell a few more Lambos before I can hop in this event.
I know you have to go down to the Starbucks and maybe beg for some money down there or something like that to get in the event, man. Just a guy, like a kid with a dream, trying to play an event. So
I got to hashtag king it a little bit. Sell some of my jewels, my watches. Like maybe.
Is that what happened to the furniture? Where's all? Is that what you sold your furniture, huh?
I sold all my furniture. Yeah. So I mean, I'm close to the 300K buy-in. Anyone like if you guys want to make donations, I could just shout out to me, just donate. You guys can donate me money in the chat. I'm close to my 300K. Maybe I'll get in. They haven't announced number 56. They actually reserved that spot for me in case I ever, manage to get 300 grand together. So we'll see if that can happen.
Yeah, guys, if you want to do that, go to PokerShares.com, put in donate, go to donate, hashtag or /donation. You put in the promo code Big Poppy. You'll actually get, Mike will give you, in addition to your donation, for every dollar you donate, he's going to give you a percentage back free on PokerShares to then gamble in Super High Roller Bowl. You got to use it on Super High Roller Bowl, though. So put in the code Big Poppy there. And yeah, go ahead, donate to Mike. We're going to try to get him into the event. It's in a couple of days. So please, guys, anything helps. And thank you very much, man. Next up, 1.31, David Peters, D. Peters, man. A name I feel like we've been seeing. It seems like he's everywhere at the final table, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's been crushing the last little bit. It was actually kind of funny. I'm so out of poker that when when PokerShares first came out, the first event we ever put up, I think, was the PCA 100K this year. And so everyone was talking about it at the table. Like, we had so much hype. So it was like, I wasn't down at PCA. We put up prices for the PCA 100K. And then I had, everyone at the tables, like, it was sort of the buzz of the table. Hey, now there's this website, people can bet on ourselves. Everyone's comparing rates. And like the buzz of the tournament was like, what does Mike have against David Peters? Like, why is why is Mike priced David Peters so low? Like I probably had him kind of in that same tier that maybe like, you know, what you were saying, like Brian Rass, maybe David Peters was in that sort of category, like on the lower end of the elite professionals, basically. And people were saying like, well, like multiple people like Mike, like what's your beef with Peters or whatnot? He's won everything. And I was just like, I had no idea he had won anything. Like I've been so out of poker the last year. I didn't know that. Like I looked it up. The guy's won every tournament for the last year.
That's why I say his Hendon mob for last year is pretty incredible. It's pretty sick, man.
Yeah, and basically it was one of those things. Like I literally had no idea that he had any scores. Like I always get focused on my own bubble. Like I just don't really follow like what else is going on in the world or whatnot. So I just had no idea that I kind of knew like where he'd have been ranked 18 months ago or something. I didn't realize how much that had kind of transitioned over the last 6 months. So everyone just thought I had some like vendetta against Peters basically. And this is kind of what I mean as far as us pricing is just kind of aggregating a whole bunch of different information, a whole bunch of different sources, who's hot, who's not, like all these things. And, you know, I'd spent so much time actually setting up the company and the site that I hadn't really been paying attention to poker news articles of who had been winning things. And then I probably like massively underestimated David Peters. So I think things like that can definitely happen. Yeah, he's as you can see now, we've got him ranked as like the 6th highest price guy, 7th highest price guy. Whereas there, he might have been one of the like lower price professionals, or one of the lower price like top tier players. And yeah, so I mean, things could definitely change as you just get more information and realize, hey, like if we see here how popular Jake Schindler and Brian Rast have been, you know, bump them up a couple percent when, you know, the guys who've been betting them seem like smart gamblers and stuff like that. So, you know, that's sort of our mentality for things.
Next up here, we got Connor Drynan, of course, the man, the myth, Connor Drynan, 1.33. And King Dan Smith, Mr. Charity, Mr. DFS, Mr. High Stakes, Dan Smith at 1.34. Both of those guys. I think Dan Smith, he got second in the one drop last year too. Did he final table this event last year as well?
I know he was deep in it. I feel like he might have been the bubble boy, but I'm not sure.
Obviously, I feel like you can't go wrong with both of those guys right there. Both great options.
Yeah.
Next up, Scott Seiver, 1.37, of course, Scott Seiver, and Dan Coleman, 1.39.
Yeah. Now we're definitely getting into a tier of like, beasts among beasts. So yeah, these are some of the highest markup guys.
Yeah, those guys are obviously great. And the last two guys, you got Christoph Vogel saying, I got to say, I wouldn't expected him. If you said, who do you think are the top guys here? I probably wouldn't expected Christoph at 1.39. Mm-hmm. But obviously he's got a ton of online experience, ton of live experience, ton of high roller cash games. He's plays every single format, it seems like. And the man who is the highest priced player, of course, the young prince himself, Mr. Fedor Holes, Mr. Recreational Player Retirement, Mr. Guy that I mean, listen, I don't know, man. I think that might be too low. You got to put Fedor at like 7 or something, but Fedor Holes 1.43, of course. And I don't think anyone's surprised to see Fedor be the man who has the highest markup in the spot.
Yeah, it's always a stressful thing shorting Fedor, that's for sure. Like he's just so liable to win any tournament he plays. People play so scared against him. I can tell you, yeah, it's not when someone goes and makes a big bet on Fedor, you're never at ease.
Overall, man, I'm excited for this. It's such a great field. A lot of guys that we know. It seems like the businessmen, we know most of them. We don't know some of them. I mean, I'm hoping that we get a great event. I'm hoping that it turns out like last year where people are talking, people are having a good time. It makes for another great televised event. But it is this year, I think it is going to be 28, 29, 30, 31, and 1. It's going to be 5 days total. Okay. So they're playing down, I think, to a final table, and then they go to 7 and 5 and 3 or something of that nature. So what do you kind of expect to see this year with the event? And, what'd you think about it last year?
I mean, this event's always like awesome. Like the format's great. Charging no rake is great. Basically forcing people to register months in advance, I think is smart, where they can hype things up. The structure's good. You don't have to play like 10-handed or anything. They have a decent amount of coverage or TV coverage or whatnot. I think there's just a lot of really good things they do with this event, and it makes for a fun viewing experience. Like I think this is one of the ones where it kind of, the one thing that sort of sucks as a Canadian. I mean, I mean, that's why I'm not playing with Canadian, like taxes are complicated. And then also Canadians buying pieces, it's complicated as well. So like, I don't really have a ton of action myself there, but that's something that's kind of nice about our site is that like, well, one, I'll have anti-sweats rather than real sweats. So I can be a part of the action in that regard. And then also, I mean, for users on our site, it's just such a simple way to have access. Like you want to buy a piece of Fedor and Negrano, okay, put $20 online, bet $10 on each of them. Like it's a very simple way to be a part of the action, basically.
So after day one ends, so day one's going to be Sunday, day one will end. Are you going to put up new lines potentially for people where chips they're at? So then if people want to get in on the action, then they'll be able to do that?
Yeah, we'll do that. We don't do that in certain events because it's just easy to lie about your bag. Like it's easy to just like say, oh, like I have 1 million chips when you really have 6 million chips kind of thing. So, you know, as a result, we don't do this in many tournaments. But this one, I think that the tracking will probably be good enough that we're comfortable allowing those bets.
Yeah, man, maybe we should get you back on here Monday morning because I'm going to do a pod. I kind of want to go over the action from Sunday. And if we got some updated odds on there, we get you back on, talk about where people stand, talk about the event. I just enjoyed it last year. It was such a great event, man. I mean, I've been saying this, but it was such well done. I feel like it was beautiful and it was fun to watch. It was just exciting. There's a shot clock. Ain't nobody tanking for 45 fucking minutes. And
that makes it a lot better for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, they rotate the feature tables, of course, too, which I feel like, I mean, I want to see, I know a lot of guys, which, you know, I want to see different players play on there. I just don't want to see the same guys for a couple hours. So I feel like they just did things that were really, really cool and made it for such great viewing. Of course, commentary was great too. And just excited for this year, man. I feel like it's crazy to say like I'm excited to watch Nolan Holm tournament, but I'm pretty excited to watch Nolan Holm tournament. 5 days. I mean, I don't know. We're going to see exactly what that looks like in terms of how it's going to be like an hour or two live or 3 hours live. I'm not really sure what they're going to do for the scheduling for that, but overall, I'm excited, man. If you got to go pick to win, Timex.
Fedor.
You can't pick Fedor. Who you got?
Okay, who do we have as the next odds? I'm gonna go Christoph. Got Christoph and Coleman at the same price. I feel like Coleman's had enough wins. I'm gonna take Christoph as my next choice. I'm going Matt Berkey, man. I got Matt. Listen, man, Matt Berkey got he's got me convinced, man. I'm buying stock on Matt Berkey Island. I sold off Wilkesoo stock. I didn't make much money on that, unfortunately, but now I bought all my money. You lose some. Yeah, no, I mean I said you win some and you lose some. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I'll see where the money comes in, and then I'll figure out where my money is. Basically, like this is such a sick event. I'm really pumped for it. But yeah, I'd definitely be down to do another podcast at some point.
Yeah, man. So if people want to get in on the action, they can go to the site PokerShares. They got to sign up for an account. They got to send their life away to you or something like that, right? If they're interested in potentially betting.
So basically what happens is, I mean, similar to PokerStars or Party Poker or any gambling site, effectively what you need to do is you need to do like the proper compliance work to show that you aren't facilitating money laundering is basically what it boils down to. That's why, you need to do this for a PayPal account. Anything where you're transferring money on the internet, there's certain work you need to do. Basically what happens, you make an account on our site, you can bet immediately. The things that we need, the things that we require documentation for we require documentation if you want to cash out, and require documentation if you want to bet for more than 2 weeks. So they give people, a 14-day window where you can bet without signing your life away. But then if you want to continue betting after then, or you want to cash out from the site, then you need to just send in a copy that basically verifies that you are who you say you are, like a driver's license or passport, and then verifies that your address is what you say it is, like a monthly bank statement or a utility bill. So that would be what we need to get sent in for people to continue using the site. Cool.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens. If anyone out there bets, please let me know who you bet on. Please let me know who you bought a piece of. And I think if I'm going to go through here and I'm going to say I got to buy, let's say I have $3,000 I'm going to spend, and I got to pick someone from each tier. So I
like that question. All right, who would you bet, and then how would you allocate it? Like, you don't need to bet the same amount. Like you can bet 100 on one guy, 1,000 on one guy. I'm curious. We give Joe Ingram his $3,000. Where does he bet it? Actually, you don't have an account yet. If you want, because if you want, I could actually give you like a couple $100 on the site if you want to bet it. But if you don't have an account set up, and it looks like you're probably in Chicago right now. Okay, so we can't actually do this.
Yeah, but like I'm in Chicago right now, Mike. Let's take that one back here, okay?
All right, fair enough.
Mike, around here, we take terms of service very seriously. We're not breaking TOS in any situation. Let's just go through here and say we got 3,000. Who we taking? All right.
Yeah.
So if I gotta pick one guy from this 0.8 tier on down. I'm gonna go with my boy David Einhorn.
Okay.
He's been coached by Mike McDonald in the past, a very successful guy. I think I'm gonna put some money into David Einhorn too, a little bit of money in him.
How much are you putting on David Einhorn stock?
Let's get 200 to David Einhorn here.
200 David Einhorn. All right, sounds good.
We got 200 David Einhorn at 0.8. I like that pick. I might even have to bump up my where I stand with him. I got to buy some of my boy Bill Perkins. Just
naturally, yeah.
I'll go down with the ship. If Perkins goes down, I got 200 of Perkins as well too at 0.9.
Mm-hmm.
Helmuth, we got to get some of Helmuth. He's got the podcast run. Get out of sign. I'm getting 200 of Helmuth.
All right.
Matt Berkey, I'm buying 1,000 worth of Matt Berkey.
All right. Yeah. All in. So Berkey's your main player, I guess. You got 1,600 down, 1,400 left.
Yeah, I think Berkey's going to be my main player in this one. We go back down this list with some of these other guys. I think we got to go with the King, Brian Rast. We got to get some of the King in here.
Yeah.
I think I'd be going. Do I want to spread it out? We'll go 200 Brian Rast.
All right.
You got to go 200 with the Supreme Leader Douglas K. Polk, of course, too.
Yep.
With him. And
1K left to spend.
1K left to spend here. We're looking down this list here, man. Whew, fuck. How do you even decide here, man? Oh my God.
We should. Are you writing this down? We should write this down and track how your team would have done.
Yeah, I'm writing it. I got it written down here right now.
Sweet.
Yeah. Fuck, man. Wow, this is tough. All right, man. I'm putting the rest on the young Prince Fader Holes. Listen, man. I don't know. I can't. I got to put the rest on young Prince Fader Holes, man. So I'm going to put that on him.
Yeah, this seems like a tournament Fader is just going to win. I feel like that's how it goes. When there's a big tournament, like I think it was last year, Fader just like won the 3 biggest tournaments of the year or something. Like he had like $3-4 million scores or something insane like that. I think this tournament definitely has Fader written all over it.
Yeah, I think I would space it out like that. And I mean, man, it's so tough when you look at some of these guys with the markup there and such great players there. It's I don't know, man. I'm excited. Jason, I mean, I might need to get some on Jay Kuhn and sell a little bit on Fedor too, because we're gonna get Jay Kuhn on the pod on Friday. So that maximize that. What's in my neck here? But we're gonna maximize that. We're gonna get last thing, Mike, before we go is how has it been training Jamie Staples for his weight loss prep bet? I saw you were just in Croatia for a little bit with Jamie. So how did that go? How did it go out there?
Yeah, I had a good time in Croatia. He's making good progress. Jamie's losing a lot of weight. Matt's putting on a lot of weight. It's been going well. I feel like a year ago we'd probably have looked more similarly. I've been getting out of shape right now. Like I feel like you can definitely tell that Mike McDonald is a good bit leaner than I am. Like it makes me realize like he's like he'd be like me in peak shape, and I'm like, okay, this guy takes good care of himself. He would be like me if I just like drank less and exercised more. So maybe I should get back into hitting the gym. Because he's, I feel like we'd have looked pretty similarly the first time someone's like, hey, you look exactly like this guy. And now I'm just like, oh man, like I'm getting fucking fat over here. So I might need to get the Mike Viconti train and get the figure out what he's doing for Jamie Staples. I need to get the 6-pack back and stuff. Like I'm getting in rough shape over here.
Why can't we bet on this anymore on the site? I saw you had it before where you could bet on the prop bet. Yes,
I mean basically this is the same thing I was saying earlier about information disparities. That it's just one of those things. Like we don't have the resources to watch every single vlog of theirs. But like when our margins are so low,
you don't got 14 minutes a day to sit down and watch a Jimmy Stabler blog. You can't do it every day, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas so it's like if sometimes it'll just be like we were just fine. Okay, we don't watch 3 vlogs in a row, and then we come back and Jamie's bummed out and he's like eating like junk food. He's like put on 4 pounds and people are betting that he's going to fail. And then it'll be like, okay, we don't bet. And so we need to shift the odds. And then we don't do it for a couple of days. And we see Jamie's lost a bunch of weight. Matt's put on a bunch of weight. Their trainer's now out in Europe and stuff. And we're just like, we don't really have the resources to keep up with that. And on top of that, even if you do watch those come out a few days late where we just realize we're too slow on the market to really keep up. So for certain things when there's especially with Scoop, Scoop was basically we were working 100 hours a week kind of thing. It was wild. So Scoop, Super High Roller Bowl, WSOP. We're just gonna have so much going on for all of that I don't think we can put a ton of time into keeping up a competitive line where we like our side of the bets. So for the time being, that's down until we have more time freed up to watch the 14-minute vlogs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not even gonna make a. I ain't gonna make a sarcastic joke about this one, but yeah, I mean, Mike. I had Mike McDonald on the podcast, and Mike's a friend of mine, so we've been talking about this a bunch, and he's looking to bet some more on him. And he said, "Do you know any place I could bet some more?" I said, "I don't know. Maybe you and him could bet. This could be some sort of like, this is what you guys were put on this earth for, to come together as long lost brothers and make a wager on the Jamie Staples and Matt Staples versus Bill Perkins prop bet."
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever anything that makes you want to shift the market drastically, it's the guy's trainer wanting to bet on him to presume. I don't know. I'm just assuming that it's like if Bill, if you have your billionaire friend betting on this, it's not that big of a data point. But if you have your non-gambler friend who's training them wanting to gamble on it, it's a pretty big data point kind of thing. So yeah, it's not like, I mean, we don't want to be like taking a position. We want to be posting a fairly efficient market. And how the fuck could we know as well as their trainer how things are going, basically? So, yeah.
Well, we're probably going to get Mike back on the podcast pretty soon. We'll talk about what's happening with all that stuff. And it looks like they are, Matt's putting on the weight. Jamie's losing the weight. So I'm still picking them to win. I got them to win. And I know Doug Polk has a big position against them against winning. So
yeah, no, it's how much did Doug end up betting?
Can't remember how much. I think it was against, I can't remember if it was Dan or someone. I don't think it was Dan. I can't remember who it was against, but I think there was a pretty big wager bet.
Okay.
Against.
Gotcha.
So we'll see what happens here. Guys in the chat, much love everybody out there. Let me give a couple shots here real quick. Who we got? Tyler Benson in the chat. Kush Strain out there. Jamie Feel in the chat. Who else we got? Blackbird Alpha, my wizard assistant, Jonah Vella. Denzel Higgins, a.k.a. I think that's Diesler. What's up, Diesler? Grimstar out there in the chat. What's up, Grimstar? Chris George, a.k.a. I think that's CG, says, hi, Timex. Good dude. Glad to see him on the pod. We got Game Theory 101. What else we got? Chuck Finley Puppy. Cold World over on Twitch. Tiggo what? Tiggo who? Let me see what else we got out there. DJ1337. Mike, you got some shots to give? Who you want to give a shout out to?
I mean, I think you already shouted out a couple of the guys that I would have known in the chat. Yeah, I don't know. This is your podcast, not mine. Shout out to everyone who tuned in for this. Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing in particular no one in particular I need to give a shout out to.
Bang,
but
bang.
Thanks everyone for showing up.
How's the Instagram coming, Mike? You enjoying Instagram a bit more these days?
No, I've been enjoying. I mean, this isn't to say much, but I've been enjoying it a fair bit less. I just haven't had using Instagram is just something I do when I have a lot of spare time, and not that I dislike it, but I just haven't had spare time lately. So if you were to look at me like a year or 2 years ago, I'd be posting Instagram pictures 2 a week or something like that. Nowadays, if I were to go on my Instagram, I'd probably post 2 in a month or something like that. So it's I still think it's a cool app, but just haven't really had the time for dicking around on Instagram a ton lately.
Yeah, very, very time consuming. Cabranch says, Joey, what is Mike's response to Phil? So I was thinking about that, and I actually don't exactly remember what Phil said about Mike, because we asked that at the end of that podcast. So if someone in the chat can actually remind me what Phil said about that, because I think it was something like, I can't even remember. I don't know if it was a bang bang. I think it might have been a little subtle bang bang against Mike, but I don't 100% remember. So I'm gonna wait for someone in the chat to sort of throw that up here and let me know. Alan News 2 says, where can we go to bet on Jamie Staples prop bet? I don't know if there's anywhere to bet on Jamie Staples prop bet right now.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I guess probably just individually with people. We'll probably, once the WSOP is winding down, we'll start putting that back up on the site. But yeah, for the time being, that one's offline.
Yeah, that one is not currently on there right now. Mike's Instagram is at Mike McDonald _89.
Yeah, exactly.
_89. So yeah, I don't know. In the chat says, I believe he said he was an idiot from Northern Canada. I actually don't think he said that. Yeah, I don't think he said that, no. Bill Helmy said he felt disrespected by what Timex said about him.
What did I say about him again? I said I don't really know how this beef started. I was just listening to no, I wasn't even listening to a podcast. Someone I knew was listening to a podcast, and they're like, yo, check what Timex has to say about, or Helmuth has to say about Timex. And there's like, it was basically just like, oh, like, Mike, he's not like a math guy. He doesn't check the math. I have the most winnings of anyone, or, so it was something along those lines. I don't really know what started this all. But yeah, it was just like, it was kind of a funny thing where like, I don't really know Helmuth particularly well. Like we played together a couple times, but it was just like, it seemed somewhat out of the blue that it was kind of, I've never had like a Helmuth blow up on me moment, but this is kind of like, okay, like, I'd say this is almost like a bucket list moment, maybe even better. Like it's one thing to have him blow up on an individual. It's another when he's doing like what seemed like a fairly professional podcast to then just be like, okay, here's Helmuth like, blowing up on me. So that was, if I listened to more of the podcast, I might know more what it was about. But yeah, there's somehow this like beef started up. Oh wait, I just realized. So Helmuth did a podcast with Remco. This was Remco's podcast.
Right.
Maybe like a month ago, I did a podcast with Remco, and then he asked me something like rate the following 4 players, like Daniel Negreanu, Phil Hellmuth, Dan Coleman, and Eric Seidel, and Fedor Holtz or something like that. And he was like, rank them. And I said Hellmuth was the lowest of that group.
Bang, bang.
And I think that, it's like, I'd be the lowest of that group kind of like, it's like, it's not really like, it's not really like much of an insult or whatnot, but like that's probably what inspired it. Like it's maybe like maybe Remco wanted to start some bang bangs. Like it could be he's like, just so you know, like Mike McDonald said you're the worst player of these guys. Like he thinks you're worse than Fedor or something. Like it could be something like that started it up, but I don't really know. Basically, he did a podcast kind of saying I don't respect him. And then other stuff going on. And then, so we PokerShares like tweeted out basically, the markups basically saying like, cause Helmuth said he'd sold all his action. So then PokerShares was sure to send a tweet saying like, if investors want to pay a discount rather than the premium, like be sure to send them to our site. And that was probably one of the most popular, maybe the most popular tweet PokerShares has ever had. Like, cause people do like the bang bangs basically. But yeah, so that'd be kind of what's happened there. So has anyone posted what Helmuth said to me this most recent time? Because I'll be honest, I don't really listen to your podcast that much.
Bang, bang.
Except like, so when I had more free time, I'd listen to all of them, but I don't really know what's been going on the last 2 months. So I had no idea he had said something to me here, but.
Yeah, I think it was about the pricing 0.99 being marked down, probably felt like he should have been higher.
Gotcha.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. It's there's plenty of room for people to like put their money where their mouth is on that one. I guess I don't know. It's like it's not as if pricing. You have Stefan Sontheimer is up as a pretty high markup. We're not like doing our pricing. But you have Daniel Negreanu in one of the lower tiers. Like we're not doing our pricing based on who has the most like accolades on their poker resume or anything like that. So we're just doing what we think pricing should be. We're no experts. We probably have a better idea than Phil Hellmuth does. We probably have a better idea than most people do, but we're not really like we don't fucking know. we just want to on average have our bets be profitable.
Well, guys, you want to make the bets, go to PokerShares.com, check it out. You want to follow Mike on Twitter, it's at Mike McDonald. Mike McDonald 89. Is that Mike McDonald 89 on Twitter? Mike McDonald _89 on Instagram. And that's it. We'll be back tomorrow night. Me like a nighttime pod. Me and Jason Kuhn, about 9 p.m. Eastern time, and then gonna do a fantasy draft on Saturday. Not sure exactly what the specifics are going to be. Stay tuned on Twitter and Instagram, PoppyGTO. And next Monday, gonna do a show. Do a day 1 recap Super High Roller Bowl as well. And that's all I got. Timex, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it for now. It's been a lot of fun. And the next time we do this should be a lot of fun too.
Cool, man. Guys, that's it. Adios. Peace out. Adios.
All right, later, guys.
Margarita, pizza, quesadilla bonita.